Hello, awesome people. I hope you're having a great day today. Today we're taking a look at the short story The Moon Lens by Ramsey Campbell. It's in this collection cold print that we've been doing a deeper dive into, where I've been reviewing a short story from it each week. I'm taking a look at it. This is my favorite short story in this collection so far. I'm giving it a 7+, the second 7+ that I've given. And we're about halfway through this collection. I bought this collection about 15 years ago, and I read it as soon as I got it, and now I'm going back and rereading it. So I've now read this short story now for the second time. As a reminder, I like to dedicate my Octobers to the Cthulhu Mythos in the horror genre. I do reviews on 3 genres: horror, science fiction, and fantasy. So I like to do this into the Cthulhu Mythos, which is a shared mythos genre that got started in the 20s and 30s by a writer called H.P. Lovecraft, who would regularly reuse key elements from his stories, from older stories, into later stories. Like, for example, the book The Necronomicon, which is this dark tome that will cause people to go mad when they read it, with the knowledge of what's actually happening in the world around us. So that knowledge of what actually happening is, we should be blissful. And a short story called The Call of Cthulhu, which is where the name of the shared universe of the Cthulhu Mythos comes from. He has a lot of those sort of elements that he has. He introduces the character of Cthulhu, a Dark Elder One, and then he has some other. He'll start to introduce elements from some of the other stories. It's from other authors that are being used that are writing for a magazine called Weird Tales, mostly, and then also some other people will start to use his elements in their stories too, so this becomes one of the first shared universes, if you will, where everybody's sort of sharing each other's stuff in this horror-esque area. So this is a horror short story then, The Moon Lens for you. It reminds me of a short story, which is actually probably more of a novella actually, called The Shadow over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft. And that's my favorite short story by Lovecraft in the Cthulhu Mythos. So it's a good thing that this one reminds me. In that short story, in the Cthulhu Mythos, Lovecraft creates a seedy port town called Innsmouth that's been around for hundreds of years. It's seedy, it's decadent, it's well past its time. And he introduces in some dark creatures and some dark characters, and some dark things happen as a result. And it's great. It's worth your fun. But anyway, it also has this one reminds me of that, because this is going to be a CD place with some CD things that are happening in it. Rather than that one having sort of a shout out to Cthulhu, this one has a shout out to Shub Niggurath. So unlike the previous short story in this collection, this one definitely is in the Cthulhu Mythos, and it has Cthulhu Mythos elements in it, although lighter ones, but again, that's sort of a seedy element. Now, Ramsey Campbell has created a place in the UK called the Severn Valley that most of his Cthulhu Mythos stories are set in. Since he's from the UK, he's writing what he knows. You know, Lovecraft was from New England, so he creates a lot of things in New England, like the Miskatonic River, the Miskatonic University, Innsmouth, and the Shadow over Innsmouth. These sorts of things are regularly created as places for the Cthulhu Mythos that are seedy, squalorish, past their time, right, and so forth. But so Severn Valley also has a lot of dark history, and that Ramsey Campbell has added to the Cthulhu Mythos that he sets his short stories in. This short story is written in the mid-60s, just a couple of years after he wrote his first short story. He was a teen in 62, and this is an early Ramsey Campbell short story. It's definitely just horror. He has written some other things later on after a few decades, like Midnight Sun, for example. Published in the 80s, that has added to his horror stuff an element of the sense of an awesomeness or sense of wonder as you're reading it, much like an Algernon Blackwood would combine those two very nicely, and is probably considered a master of both of those. And his short story, The Willows, which I've reviewed for you, is considered by many, including myself, to be the greatest horror short story of all time. So it's pretty good, and it definitely does that. Lovecraft also later on in the 30s, in the last few years of his life, was also much better at doing that too, with combining those two senses. Ramsey Campbell is definitely he's somebody who's well known to UK horror writers because he has published a lot of novels in the UK pretty recently. So he's definitely well known to UK horror fans. So we're doing a deep dive into Ramsey Campbell as a result. As a reminder, my channel is named after a famous quote by Jacques Joubert that says that the worst thing about new books is that they keep us from reading the old ones. And so reading a short story from the 60s is definitely, 50 years ago is definitely canon to this key thing that's happening here today. So it's definitely something that I like doing a deeper dive into, right, and taking a look at. And so, I like to find these older things, and so hence in the 3 genres that I do reviews for you. As a reminder, I try to keep my reviews spoiler free, so I'm not going to give you the spoiler. I'm just going to give you the basic sort of context of what's happening. In this person, it's in a 15-page short story, which took me about half an hour last night for me to read for the second time. But again, our main character, he is heading out and staying the night in a town that's near the railroad station, and then that's it. Bad stuff happens to him, as you can tell from the title and the fact that it's in the Cthulhu Mythos, and it's a horror short story. So you can tell by its genre. So anyway, there you go. I'll go ahead and leave you to it. Have you read this short story by Ramsey Campbell? If so, what did you think about it? Did you agree or disagree with my 7+ out of 10? Did you think it was the best one in this collection so far? If you disagreed with my thoughts, or if you want to talk about spoilers, hey, let's do so in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, why not hit that subscribe button? There's going to be a lot more of these to follow. And then finally, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your day and investing it and watching my video. We all have so many things that are happening in our lives, and we're pulled in so many different directions. So the fact that you spent this time with me is incredibly humbling, and I appreciate it. So thanks again, and have an amazing day.